Okay, so welcome everybody to the public Gno.land developer call. And here we have the agenda. So maybe we start with the on-block team. I don't know, Andrew, do you want to quickly share some updates on what you guys have been working on?
Yeah, sure. You guys mind if I share my screen?
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
it's disabled.
Yeah, let me
Sally,
hold
can
on.
you?
Just
Yeah,
a
right.
second. I love it. It's always great to have the visuals.
Right.
I sadly was going to try a Miro board, but right now I think I'll just take notes. So you have.
I'm sharing. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I'm just gonna be sharing this quick update on GNOScan. So this is an internal server that we use for testing purposes. And wait, I think my screen's blinking. Is it good on you guys' end? Or
Yeah,
It's okay now.
all right, yeah, I'm just gonna continue then. All right. So this new update that we're going to be shipping on Adena is going to be support for GRC20 tokens. And as you guys can see here, in addition to GNOT tokens, you can now see balances for all GRC20 tokens, somewhat similar to Adena. And we're going to be fetching these data from this repo that we shared last week, no token resources. So if you're a developer or a builder who wants to have your logo registered or any other static data, please submit a PR here, and you're going to be seeing those integrated here. And one other thing that I want to mention is that when you make transactions with native tokens like GNOT tokens, those are actually back message send. But when you make transactions with GRC20 tokens, it's kind of different because it's VM.message under by call. But we want to make these kind of seamless for users, because a transfer is a transfer from the user's end. So we're thinking of ways to making these more intuitive, and hopefully we can ship this over to production server soon, so everyone can see their GRC20 token balances on here as well. And that's all from GNOScan. And I actually want to share a couple ongoing PRs that somewhat relates to GNOSwap, which are 764 and 816. So the first one is addition of BigInt for supporting a wider range of numbers. And the second one is a small bug that we run into when importing encoding / base 64. And Dongwon, you wanna add anything to these?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to add on to the base 64. I was using it as well, and I found some other pieces were important. So I think I made a little comment about it, but if we could include those other encoding binary things, that would be great. I have a little WIP as well, but I didn't want to make another PR. I think I ran into the same issue as you. That's why I also did it.
All right.
Yeah. You are also like, yeah, I think it makes sense to include encoding binary. I'm sorry, yeah, encoding binary. And with the, but I think we should add both big endian and little endian personally. And I was also sort of discussing today briefly with Manfred whether we should plan long term on adding reflect, and I think that's something we should consider, and something where after that's done we could deport the entirety of encoding binary over to over to GNO. But yeah, I think this PR makes sense so long as we add both big endian and little endian.
Yeah, thank you for the comment.
And just to come back on GNOScan and GRC20, just a reminder, we discussed recently, and we will probably go in that direction of adding emit support. And in your case, as an indexer, I suggest that then you switch from trying to monitor direct calls to GRC20 contracts, but instead to just look at emissions from GRC20 library. So that you can support GRC20 tokens, even if they were addressed from another contract with an intermediary contract. So first thing, just consider that we will have an addition in the API, especially for indexers that review all the blocks and transactions, and you will be able to see what's happened under the hood, even if the flow of contract is not known by you. And about your thing with adding support for encoding binary, etc. So one of the things is about adding a documentation with a compatibility matrix with Golang stdlibs. So the goal is to say whether the compatibility is complete, partial, outdated, and give some comment. So the goal is to add more stdlibs libraries, but we try to make it in a way that won't become a mess to maintain. And I suggest you all to read the recent issue by Morgan. What's the number? 814. Better native bindings. 814. It's about a big refactor of how we could manage stdlibs in general. And instead of having a different context, if you are using GNO CLI or GNO VM in production, instead of maintaining a whitelist system, instead of having many code in Go and in GNO, the goal will be to just look on GNO files for what is available from the stdlibs, but then allow to have Go implementations for performance or other reasons. That is done. So basically, just the change is about having 100% of what we can use from a contract, which exists either because it's implemented or just because you have the function signature in a GNO file. And another good point about this is that then you can start having, I don't know, GNO LSP server or whatever, that will have a single source of truth about what's available in the stdlibs. So issue 814 by Morgan goes directly in what we discussed here. And actually, it's also about to discuss how we can make it easier to transfer a Go famous library published on GitHub by someone on GNO. So not only about stdlibs, but in general, compatibility matrix between Go and GNO, both for stdlib and for community modules. And it's a fresh issue. It sounds and looks good, but there are many things inside. So if you can look and give your feedback on this issue, it would be very helpful.
Yeah, on top of the issue, which outlines my thoughts and ideas on how I think we should best implement this. I should also update the first one because there are some new ideas after discussing with Tomas about when we need to use GNO machine. But the plan for now on my side is to get a proof of concept up and running so that we can have a feel for what this would look like and feel like. And if that looks good, then go forward and implement the whole thing, which would entail also having code generation. So because probably the proof of concept will have some sort of manually written things, but instead, like in the code generation, you just have the Go and the GNO file, and you have like some generated code that automatically links the standard library GNO function to function declaration to the Go part.
Yeah, and last thing, new way to manage it, code generation to make it easier and always up to date. And last thing is about maybe a new command GNO port or something to help just porting existing Go code, which can be stdlibs or a GitHub repo. So yeah, feel free to anyone, Zach and Andrew, since you are working on extending stdlibs, feel free to comment on this issue. Thanks.
Yeah, that sounds great. I will do that.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I think I pretty much shared everything. Nothing much to update from Adina besides what we shared last week. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Maybe also after we hear from Zach, quickly the Tendermint 2 JS client and how that's working. Does it make sense to jump there, or is that related?
Do you mean
I think it
Milosh?
makes sense to split. Yeah.
Yeah.
More Milosh. Milosh made it, even if Zach could be potentially as a second
I'm happy to
client
give an
after
update
Milosh.
too, but I can defer.
Yeah.
I can give a small update too. It's not directly related to Adina, but we published 2 packages to npm. One is called Tendermint 2 JS client. The other one is called Gno JS client. And if the naming is very confusing, that's because it is. The basic gist is you would use Tendermint 2 JS client when you're interacting with any kind of Tendermint 2 specific network. So it doesn't have any kind of operations for example, like the Gno VM or something like that. If you wanted to use Gno specific features, you would use Gno JS client. And this is meant for really like app developers or development teams that are writing like JavaScript apps or TypeScript apps, and they need to interact with the chain somehow, and they don't want to write their own logic for RPC parsing or have to worry about how to marshal a response. They can just plug and play this package, and they can just get on their way, right? So they can have all the functionality that we usually have from an SDK or a client, just like bundled up into these like 2 specific packages. Adina has been helping us develop this, and they've been test running this for the Adina wallet. That's pretty much the update. You can find, I'll link them in the chat. So the Tendermint 2 JS client and the Gno JS client. You can find the documentation on the developer portal from OnBlock regarding both. And yeah, that's pretty much the update here.
Noted. So there's already documentation on the developer portal. Okay. Then maybe over to you, Zach.
Thank you. So yeah, the micro blog realm I'm working on is still in the process of merging, but yeah, thanks a lot, Milosh and Antonio, for your patience with me doing that. That's PR 791, so that'll probably be good to go in the next week or 2. But in the past 2 weeks, my intentions were to sort of kick the tires of No, and I wanted to make a smart contract that did some digital signal processing for like Web3 audio. And that requires a bunch of like standard lib libraries. So I ran into a bunch of these issues that kind of Andrew talked about. But along those lines, I made a package to do like a riff header for WAV files. This required using like IO Writer, and that gave me a little roadblock because I discovered that using IO Writer uses more gas than I expected. So I made a little issue about that. That's issue 803, but that's solved now that I know that occurs. And then I made a package for implementing a digital biquad filter that does high pass and low pass filtering, so standard DSP stuff. This uses a bunch of math, it's like sine and cosine, which I found were in the standard lib. So I made a PR for those, that's 805. And then to put the audio into the website, I am converting the WAV file to base64 to put it into an audio tag. And then I ran into the same issue that Andrew did about using base64 encoding, needing encoding binary. So in my implementation, I put in the little endian and it's working well. I think I put in big endian too, just for completeness. So there's that PR that we talked about, 816 that's open. And everything works. It can generate some audio in the smart contract, which is pretty cool. I did find that a little issue is that it's limited to the amount of audio that it can generate because of the max cycles limitation in the smart contracts. And I made an issue for that 821 just to discuss it because that was a little surprising to me. I mean, it makes sense that you don't want to have really long running processes, but I was wondering maybe how to go over that in the future or just to track it in the future. So that's signposted by issue 821. But yeah, that's about what I've been working on for the past 2 weeks. It's pretty fun. Little roadblocks, but I figured out ways through them for the most part.
Can you tell us more about your next step? What you want to do next?
Yeah, I would like to implement a little more in the microblog, maybe adding aliases. And I am interested in doing some things with tokens and incentivizing the microblog, or perhaps incentivizing the Web3 audio. So making like an audio NFT. I haven't done much with the tokens yet. So that's kind of where I'm going to be exploring next.
An audio NFT sounds really, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I think it should be fun. I think it should be fun.
I don't know, is there anything else, questions? And so it was issue 821, I've also noted. If there isn't anything, shall we move on down the list to Albert and issue 631 around the Merkle tree?
Yeah, so but it's pretty basic. It's just an implementation of a Merkle tree. It's under review right now. They've got recently several comments that was pretty interesting. They're all fixed, so now just needing some last approvals, I think, and it can be merged.
What will it bring for anyone who will listen to this? But what will it bring to?
Okay, so the main stuff is that the first idea and where this Merkle tree is coming from is that it will permit Merkle trees are a lot used in the blockchain ecosystem. So, sorry, that is my daughter. Sorry. Wait, second.
Yeah, that's okay. Just
okay, it's good. Sorry. So yeah, so and the main example I can get is so for a Merkle airdrop. And this is what I already worked on. I'm working on that on the side. I have a branch with a Merkle airdrop, but the Merkle airdrop needs the Merkle tree, the get-rin color merged. So I have like a disgusting branch with where I put everything and to just make my make it works. And I finally managed to make all that work. So now I'm trying to have everything merged step by step, and then I will be able to make like a clean pull request for a GRC20 Merkle airdrop contract example.
Okay. So it adds the airdrop feature to any realm, any package realm. It's also labeled package realm. Is this part of the new labeling for Game of Realms? Antonio.
Sorry?
Just out of curiosity, I know there's a new labeling system. It's listed as a package realm. Is this under Game of Realms or just?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't got you the first time. Yeah, the labels on GitHub, they are they will be auto-assigned depending on the folder that is being changed. So we the only thing that we can say is like, okay, this is part of the virtual machine. This is part of the realms, or this is a Gno file, so it will be a package or a realm, or this will be part of the Tendermint. So we don't have the only way that we can say this is a game of realm related issue is setting it by hand. So we can have a specific tab for it if we want, but it should be set by hand right now.
Okay, great. So I didn't know that that this was Game of Thrones compatible, but it's cool. Good to know.
Okay, so if there isn't anything else on that, then the other one is for Albert, but maybe when you're ready, Albert, we can talk about the get realm caller. But let's move on, if it's okay, to the file-based indexing update. Is that something, Milos, that you might want to just briefly touch upon?
Yeah. So this has been, I think, one of the oldest topics before we even started having these like public or private calls
Okay.
regarding like transaction indexing.
And what is the canonical issue that I should put through?
Yeah. So we used to have transaction indexing back in the original version of Tournament 2, but it was sort of surgically stripped out because it was, as I understood, it was like too clunky or too bloated, and we wanted to have a much more minimal implementation of it. And the idea that Jay proposed in one issue, I'm not sure which one it is. It's 200 something. Yeah, you can find it on in the PR link, or if you search the issues for indexing, re-implement transaction indexing. What he proposed is that we should have an indexer implementation that is really based upon this concept of the Tendermint node should basically capture transactions, but there should be a special service that actually does the transaction indexing, right? So basically the consumer implementation for these transactions should be separate from the actual Tendermint node, not to consume any kind of resources. Conceptually, it should be like a process that runs separately from the node that just like knows when a new transaction occurs to serve it to anybody else who wants to hear about it, right? So what the PR introduces, it's an older PR from February. What it introduces is basically a foundation where we can define any kind of indexer implementation. Currently, the only implementation that exists is like no indexer. So you can turn off the transaction indexer. And the other one is what was originally proposed by Jay, which was any kind of transaction that occurs within the node is written down to an auto file. So an auto file group and it's assumed that a separate process will actually consume the auto file and serve the transactions to any kind of potential listeners. But it also gives us sort of a leeway to, if we want to have a much more fancier implementation down the road, for example, we want to have something that is very similar to what Ethereum has. If you've ever used Ethereum, you can subscribe to events or do subscribe to like specific topics, as they're called. What that basically means is that the Ethereum node has a process that checks on every new block whether or not something occurred that matches the topic any kind of active listener is listening on. So you can basically either do like HTTP requests to the node, or you can do a WebSocket request. You can keep up WebSocket connection and just get updates directly from the node without like having to run a different service. Currently, we don't support this, but in the future, we might have like an implementation that does this. But yeah, this is the gist of the indexing PR currently, is just to have like the original foundation idea proposed by Jay, and we can just take it from there. Yeah, the general idea is for the community to discuss whether or not how we can actually utilize this better, or what are the needs from a client side, because I've worked on these JavaScript clients. There is definitely a need to be able to just give the node a transaction hash or any kind of process a transaction hash and have it just return the data that you need. Because right now the only workaround you really have is you remember like the block before you actually send the transaction, and then you query the chain for a list of blocks, and then you iterate over each transaction in each block and just figure out whether or not the transaction that you're looking for is among those transactions, which is kind of tedious. It puts load on the actual clients. So yeah, that's pretty much the update.
And that one's merged, yeah. So it's
No, not yet. Yeah, it's
Okay.
still in review.
looks like we got Albert back. I know that it seems that
Yes.
the issue the issue of 667. I know it's been a while but it was getting a lot of conversation. So it might just be something we wanted to talk about.
Well, I think it will be quick. With all the discussions we had, we finally all agreed on the name. So get trim color. The peer has been updated and is named get trim color now. All the code is fine, so it just need like final review, like the Merkle tree, and can be merged. I don't know if we are waiting for Jay to review, or if we can review before that.
Which one? 667?
667.
Yeah, anyway, we need to wait for Jay. I will make another bunch of review, but anyway, we need to wait Jay for
Okay.
this one.
Okay, but the code is ready, so
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I will review soon, no problem.
Okay. So that's it.
Okay. So there was moving on. There's also another one that I didn't have on the agenda. It might be worthwhile if we just have a few minutes. But did we? So we had native binding. Morgan suggested for 8.14 as a point to discuss. I know that we were talking about it earlier in relation to some of the on-block updates. Is there a little bit more that we or you need to cover, or just give a brief update and what exactly it could mean?
Yes. Sorry, I would just quickly put on my headphones so yeah, you guys don't hear my Telegram notifications. Yes. I think I briefly illustrated. If anyone still feels confused or uncertain, I can make a more thorough read and explanation of how this would work. If anyone wants to hear that, let me know. Because yeah, otherwise I think we can move on to other topics.
Okay. There was one point that Manfred made at the bottom that I was just curious. Creating a POC to make informed decisions for next steps. Out of curiosity, what does that mean exactly to this?
The POC is a proof of concept, and
Right.
you know, for us,
Yeah.
it just means that what was mentioning before, which is that I'll create like a sort of proof of concept of what I was explaining in at the start of the PR. Just doing it, just trying, you know, making like a Go file which does a binding, like I described it. Try to keep the code minimal so we can see, you know, what are the advantages and disadvantages of this feature.
Okay.
And then we're probably in a better decision to see if this should be changed or if I can go forward with the code generation part.
And it will allow to have better planning for the next steps, and maybe to split the load into multiple persons. So yeah, we need the POC to confirm that it's a good idea, but I think it is, and to just clarify the next step, the next phases, because it will probably be a big change. And the worst case would be to work on it and finally decide to change some things at the end of the implementation. So yeah, it's about just risk management, but consider this should make a lot of sense, and maybe we'll find something that makes a change our mind, but it's mostly about optimizing the execution. Yeah,
and also like ideally like cutting down the barrier to contributing to the standard libraries, as it's it's a sort of like a part which is I think is really important to get to get done in this first part of the GNOME project.
Yeah. Just to give you another example, I was reviewing PRs from Albert, and one of the things I really would want to see is Godot code comment above stdlibs, and currently we can't have it. So, for instance, get realm color is a title, and I really want to have a clear comment explaining in case, realm actually has an implicit account, and in case blah blah blah. So yeah, we need comments, and we don't have comments right now. And thanks to Morgan's proposal, we could improve our life and also gain this feature which is just inexistent right now. So yeah, for the PRs from Albert, actually, this is a very good example of something Morgan can fix.
So just for context, for this we'll have a proof, or Morgan will work on a proof of concept for this for the native binding issue that we have here. But is that something that would be something the proof of concept added to a lot of features to see if they make sense before implementing, or is that just to the specific one that point of concepts proof of concept would be?
Yeah, it's for long, it's for complex and long issues to prevent discovering something too late. So we have something similar for garbage collection. We have something similar for performance issues in general. We have something similar for all the big topics from phase 1 of Game of Realms.
Okay.
As soon as we have something complex where many things can be a good option, and we just want to minimize the risk of dropping code. We will we actually use this method implicitly in the past, and we'll do it more when it makes sense.
Okay. I was just thinking about as
it's pretty common in this space. No worries.
Okay. And something that maybe highlighting for if we do have people joining that are not part of the core tech team or the core contributors, having them aware that when they want to do this, that maybe they also offer the proof of concept.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's a kind of a standard, but anyway. Okay, then we had on the docket the lineup with Petar and the update on garbage collector. I know that last time it was they said there'd already been a pretty comprehensive update, but that was, I guess, 2 weeks ago. So Petar, over to you if you want to talk about the garbage collector. What's going on?
Yeah. We have a GC implementation. I'm just gonna list the things of the checklist in the PR that are done. If anyone has any questions, I will go deeper into it. So we have a GC implementation, mark and sweep algorithm. We're adding root objects on assignment and declaration. Also, when passing escaped objects as either arguments or receivers on abstract. In adding root objects when they're captured, when values are captured in closures. Escape analysis on the AST that is done during the go to GNO procedure. And the things that are left that need to be done are treating the built-in types that have reference semantics as such. Basically, the string, map, slice types all have reference semantics. So even if they're not passed by reference, we need to assume they were. So and the big thing to do is when things get out of scope, we need to remove the root objects. So when the GC runs, it can delete objects that have no reference anymore. That's pretty much it. From
I have a I have a question, Peter. I think, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like the strings, maps, slices, and like these special types are handled by the escape analysis, right? Or is something I'm missing?
Yes, but the escape analysis only says what needs to be done, but it doesn't actually do anything.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, that's the part is still missing. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So all of these points that I mentioned have two sides to them. One is they need to be accounted for in the escape analysis, which marks data structures, saying whether they should be heap allocated or stack. And the other side is actually implementing the logic that uses those markers in the VM, in the runtime.
And Peter, what is the best issue or pull request to that I should have linked here for all of these?
Yeah, it's still a draft PR,
Okay.
simply because they're daily updates, and I don't think yeah, I think it's sort of stable now. The design is stable, and I should probably mark it as a normal PR, but this is the link for it.
Okay, so yeah, thanks. Antonio also said 713. Okay. So moving on then quickly to the, I don't know, we've got Maxwell, right? I think on the call. Yeah, there's the contract to contract communication topic that is listed in issue 757. I think that might also be the game of runs, I'm not sure. And then 473. I don't know, is there any kind of updates on this overall discussion around contract communication? Maybe this is for Maxwell, maybe Manfred.
Yeah, it was one of the main recent discussion, but in a private space. And actually, we need to come back to Maxwell with a suggested plan, because yeah, it's actually good, but we are not sure if we want to make it different or maybe isolate it. So basically, what he made makes sense, but what we don't know if we want to push it for non-IBC calls or to keep it only for IBC. For IBC, it makes sense, but actually his code base doesn't have IBC support yet. So do we keep his PR open until we have IBC and then we make the glue between the two systems? Or does it make sense to keep his implementation for non-IBC features? It could be contract-to-contract interaction from a new STD call. So yeah, we need to come back to Maxwell. But yeah, basically we have great code, but it's hard to find the best place the best way to merge it. So right now, what I suggest him is to try to find another topic to work on while we take the time to find the best next step for this.
Okay.
The worst option would be to keep it in draft mode for multiple months and wait for IBC to be finished and stable in terms of API, so that he can try to bridge his work on IBC. But that would be the worst case, and I will try to avoid this case.
Okay. This is probably also a layman a bit question, but is this one where proof of concept is possible, or?
Actually, he made a proof of concept,
Okay.
but and it helps a lot because now we can try to decide if it makes sense to to merge it early, or if it goes, actually the problem with the pair is not the pair itself, it's about what we want to have in GNO v1.0.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe what he made makes sense only for IBC or for GNO 1.2 or something like this. So yeah, we need to come back. Maxwell did a very great work, but now it's on us to find a solution to make it happen.
Okay. I don't know, Maxwell, is there anything other on other topics or pull requests that you're interested in sharing?
Oh, hi. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for your clarification. I have no update on this topic about since the inter-contract call is suspended for the version 1. And so I actually like to hear some about the IBC design, our task goals, scope, and some details about that.
Yeah.
I also have some other work in progress to do some fix up on the VM bugs. That I think that's pretty close. Yeah, that's some work in progress. I also had some work about the governance module. That's pretty early. Yeah.
Nice.
It's possible for a long time. So I think I like to pick it up and restart it and looking for some way to complete this. I don't know if there's someone still also working on this. So maybe we can talk and we can converge into some.
I think Andrew here, no?
Yeah.
Governance module.
Andrew, yeah.
Sorry, what is this? What did you say? What module?
I think Andrew also worked like Maxwell on the governance module. So if Maxwell is looking for people to discuss with common knowledge, I think Andrew from Unblock also worked on this topic.
Yeah, if you wanna join forces to completing a challenge, yeah, I'm down for that.
Just to clarify, Maxwell, when you say you worked on governance module on yours, because right now we have multiple proposals by text. Do you work on something that is actually code or still about definition of the rules and everything?
Well,
it's code directly.
Some work I did before is I'm looking for some way to achieve customizable suits that will work for some different designs. Since I'm not so clear about the final design of about our governance module. So generally, I'm looking for some way to to achieve a customizable suit. That's it. Yeah. I seem don't remember some of the other details. So maybe we can talk with Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, this topic is I think it will be very nice if you can work on this. It's a very useful topic. We were discussing 1 hour late before with the rest of the team to provide more help, more clarity on this. So let's discuss together, at least you and Andrew, but also count on us. I think many people in the core team want to help if we can. So I let you ping Andrew first, but yeah, feel free to either use the next meeting like this or to organize a dedicated workshop, so we can try to work together on making it happen, or at least going forward, so that other people can help finishing the details.
That's great. Yeah, so maybe the follow-up there would be the little bit of a governance module task group.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a few more things, but I think you said you had to leave early, Manfred. So there is one that was pretty interesting, I think, but I think it's from OnBlock's Blake, R3 V4S, around map state not persisting correctly. I'm not sure if that's something that anyone wants to jump on or has any comments on. Looks like maybe Antonio comments.
What's the number?
It's sorry, it is 817, I believe. It's the map state is not persisting correctly. Listed as a bug under
Yeah.
discussion. Not sure if that's something that needed any kind of resolution. Looks like there was an update. Sorry, I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, on this one, we need to decide what we do with maps, because maps in Go are not deterministic by default, and we want determinism. So one of the options is to improve map support so it's determinist. Another one is to allow maps but not as global variables. So just to use for, I don't know, for design patterns, for algorithms, but then you can't store the map itself.
That second option is the one I tried like to give some thought about it, like not allowing maps on route, right?
Yeah.
It's basically they won't have a state between calls to the realm.
Yeah.
It's something that we can add.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah, it's an option. Maybe it's better to support it, but it's an option to say maps are allowed, and they should be determinist when used in the code. But yeah, we can forbid them from being stored on route.
Yeah, maybe as a first step, maybe for the user experience, we can fail if someone is using a map and that person is expecting to have a state, right? So maybe we can only allow maps right now because we don't know how to implement them in a deterministic way. Maybe we can only allow them inside functions with no state.
Yeah.
Right. Might be a first approach, right?
I mean, for me, like, I don't think it makes necessarily sense to disable them, but okay, so the way I think, it could make sense are two. The first is that we make them deterministic, but still with random behavior. And what I mean is that, they always like, for the random number generator that we use to do map access over a range, we always start with the same seed. So if you start iterating on the same map with the same length and the same keys, it will always have the same order, independently on the time you're doing it. And that is still deterministic. It's, to run the code more than one time, it does the maps in the same order, but it's still, makes it that it's a behavior that the developer cannot rely on the order of the keys in the map. Another one instead, which is probably a bit more tricky because a map cannot just have strings, but can have any variety of keys, is to actually implement them internally, like AVL trees or, other kind of trees, or in general, give them that the order in which they're iterated on is alphabetical. But then, the harder question then becomes, okay, I understand what is alphabetical on scalar values, so floats, ints, strings, and so on. But what is the order for like structs or other kind of things which are still valid map keys?
Yeah, actually, AVL trees are what I use instead of maps when I need to store them on root. But in terms of performance, and especially for workflow, just the simple things like unique strings, unique integers, etc. It's very common to use maps for this reason. So having a native type for maps that you actually use AVL tree, I think will be better for storing, but way worse for performance issues. So if we just make it forbidden and remind people that AVL tree, maybe AVL Merkle tree from Albert or whatever are good alternatives. New test storage in general, it can make another solution. But yeah, I think replacing the native type for something which is optimized for Merkle tree storing instead of for performance could be dramatic in terms of performance. So we can consider rewriting maps, the native type of maps for sure, but probably with something specific to just maps, keeping the performance, determinism across different systems and architectures, and yeah, performance while being determinist. That's all. But if we have better documentation on types and just have a warning when you try to just store a map on the root, I think it can be enough. So people will use map in general and it will work. And the day they have the warning, map are not authorized on root, please use AVL tree, Merkle tree, whatever tree system. I think it will be easy for developers to not stay stuck. Don't know. What do you think, other guys here?
Yeah, another thing that came to my mind is like maybe we can, like, as you said, we can have like the implementation of the map to be non-deterministic, but I correct me if I'm wrong, but the deterministic part, the important one is when we are storing the state of the program into the blockchain, right? Or it's also in the execution.
In the execution too, because you will store the result.
Oh, yeah, because you're right. Yeah.
No. Determinism is mandatory. What we can consider, because today, if you want to store a map, you can use an AVL tree. You will have something with key and values, limited to strings and with other limitations, but it's optimized for storage. It will have a low cost, etc. But performances won't be as good as the native map type. I think the native map type is currently determinist enough. Maybe we need to check for edge cases, but yeah, storing it is a problem. So one of the options is to rewrite map so it's storable. Another option is to make it forbidden for root and just improve documentation and have better examples. So people that want to store something with key and values can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, the other alternative to an AVL tree is a B tree.
Yeah. In general, that's what I said on the PR from Albert. We need more storage in userland in Gno, and then maybe with this experience we can consider replacing the native map type with something which has similar advantages, including performance, because that's one of the main use case of this native type, while being better for Gno. So yeah, I think you have a PR to replace maps with B-tree. Maybe it's a solution, but we can also start having many more types implemented like AVL. So we have AVL, Merkle tree, B-tree, blah blah tree, and yeah, we'll continue like this. But yeah, in general, the current thing is about helping. I think it's Revas R3V4S. What do you think, guys, about just making map forbidden to be stored on root right now? Maybe later we find a solution, but right now we encourage people to use maps only during execution, and that's all. Or maybe someone has a solution to.
I will vote for that one, because if we change the implementation of or in internally of bitmaps, or sorry, of maps, and then we change our minds, we can create a small mess, right?
Yeah.
So I will say to forbid them on the route right now, and until we have a good solution for them.
I mean, for me, I still think like, for me, I think that sort of the best approach would be to make the execution like the proposal that I made, so which makes the execution deterministic, but the order still like non-deterministic. So the idea of using the same seed, so that, you know, given given same length of map and same length of map, like the keys are in a fixed order at length 1, length 2, and then 3, length 4. But when you start, so you can't still rely in case you change, you add or remove values on the map on the order that it is. We have a way of storing it deterministically as well, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that solves the issues and still allows maps on the top level, honestly.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I need to move. I think what you said is what we do. I think we currently have a deterministic map, probably because we have a fixed seed for this system. But what we lack today is we don't know how to Merkleize it. I think that's the current issue. We need to check more deeply, but I think the current limitation to store it is because we can't Merkleize it, like we can't Merkleize some advanced types. But right now, for me, map is already deterministic when using in Gno.
I mean, couldn't we, yeah, but couldn't we just sort of marshal the key values even when they're not like strings or, you know, simple scalar data types? And
yeah, we can try. Actually, it's about implementing the Merkleization, and maybe we can try it with something stupid and improve later. I don't know. But yeah, right now, I don't think it's problem of determinism, but more a problem of Merkleize it before storing. I need to switch. Let's continue on the issue about forbidding right now or not, and what are the next steps. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manfred.
Just for next week, then in 2 weeks, before we get to the most exciting last part of the call. Maybe next week, I know Pew Array is working through the Tenement 2 cleanup, work in progress, but it is a breaking change. So it could be something that would be worthwhile doing a recap next week, in 2 weeks, sorry, Ray. And then we can also, since it came up with Maxwell and the other topic around IBC updates. But I don't know, Petar, shall we hand it off quickly to you for the wrap up? Me too. I've been waiting for this. You didn't come planned with one?
Oh, Jesus, I forgot.
It's okay. Yeah, Milos and I had been waiting for the Petar joke, but the joke is then that we didn't get one. So
I have many jokes, but the problem is most of them are very sensitive and should not be told on something that is being recorded.
Yeah, we have to, maybe then we put a PG joke status for, since this is for the public call.
Maxwell has a joke. I'd say we let him go.
And Maxwell. So hopefully yours is a PG joke as well.
Oh, hi. I'll try my best since it's not easy for me. Okay. It's about a boy. His name is Bob. Bob was born in Manchester, in England. And Bob is very clever. He's a good boy. When he grew up, Bob need to go to school, okay, and but he don't want to, but then his dad told him, Bob, you have to go to school. It's because knowledge is power. Francis Bacon. And Bob is very confused. Since he understands that knowledge is power, but why France is bacon? What does that mean? Bob don't understand. Is it because the Frenchman likes to eat bacon? He's very confused. When Bob grew up and he went to middle school, he did really good in the school, and his teacher likes him very much. His teacher, one day, a teacher talked to Bob to encourage what that he did a good job. His teacher said to Bob, "Knowledge is power." And this time, Bob don't want to hesitate, and he asked his teacher carefully, "Francis Bacon?" And teacher said, "Yeah, absolutely." And Bob didn't get the answer. He confused more. Until someday he read from the book. The book writes, "Knowledge is power," and from Francis Bacon. Then Francis Bacon is someone's name. Okay, it's over. I know.
I think, yeah, I'd read this on Reddit about a long time ago, like 5-6 years ago. But yeah, it's great.
I have to admit, I know Francis Bacon vaguely, but I'm now Wikipediaing him, so to learn more.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And then most Hollywood movies. Okay, well then, Petar, you come with the joke the next time, and see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks all for joining.
Sure.
Thank
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
You guys.
Bye, everyone.
See you.